Welcome to Uncensored Conservatism. This is episode number 140, and today we will once again look at Project 2025 and go on to Chapter 8. So we're up to Chapter 8, and we've covered about a quarter of the Project 2025 so far. Nothing all that controversial unless you're transgender. Believe with your heart and soul the United States is the cause of climate change, and that's John Kerry there. Or you're a government employee, or, oh yeah, a transgender government employee. Anyway, Chapter 8 is about media agencies of the government, and the first part was authored by Morab Namdar, who covers the U.S. Agency for Global Media. I confess to not really knowing that much about this until I actually read Project 2025, unlike Kamala Harris. She never read it past the introduction. Anyway, so the mission is to engage, inform, and promote democracy and freedom around the world. Okay, so far, so good. After all, the left's big on democracy, right? In theory, it's all fine and dandy, but in practice, it now mirrors the view of our adversaries when it comes to reporting on the United States. You know, the one that funds it. So it has a budget of about $1 billion and oversees the Voice of America and the Office of Cuba Broadcasting. Voice of America is broadcast in 48 languages with a weekly audience of about 326 million people. They also use digital media and social media, but they're not supposed to broadcast in any form to a domestic audience, which they do anyway. The Office of Cuba Broadcasting runs Radio Marti. The Middle East broadcast company obviously broadcasts there and in North Africa to a largely Muslim audience. Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty is a private non-profit broadcasting operation that, besides Europe, broadcasts into Afghanistan and Pakistan. Radio Free Asia obviously broadcasts into Asia. At Radio Free Asia, the head of that operation, after leaving, managed to land in a company that I got a contract from, you guessed it, Radio Free Asia. The Open Technology Fund, which is supposed to deal with a free and open internet, was so ripe with fraud and waste it was shut down by Trump the first time around. Now, this agency talks a big game about journalistic standards and firewalls. That's usually when they're criticized for running stories detrimental to the United States. Again, you know, the country that funds them. And incidentally, they're supposed to be politically neutral when it comes to the United States. You know, the country that funds them. No Russian spies had actually infiltrated Radio Free Europe and Liberty and spread pro-Russian disinformation. It's estimated that $300 million a year could be saved by reining in this agency if we kept it at all. There's certainly redundancy, and Radio Free Asia has a Mandarin language station. So does the Voice of America. Voice of America and Radio Free Liberty both have a Farsi language broadcast. The agency also uses a quirk of the J visa system to bring in foreign journalists to do the job that American journalists can easily do. Why? Especially as many then apply for permanent residency once here, and they get it. Now you know why people like this have a job here, or this guy. The second half of Chapter 8 is about the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and was written by Mike Gonzalez of the Heritage Foundation. So from Nixon to Trump, every Republican president has called for stripping it of public funding. So this is nothing new in Project 25. This guy warned the Nixon administration that public broadcasting had the very real possibility of turning into this, the BBC. So, well, it finally happened. Well, it takes the approval of these guys, so nothing's really certain. Pew Research showed that 60% of PBS broadcasts appeal to liberals and only 15% to conservatives. And it's even worse than NPR. That could be acceptable to these guys, but not PBS. Unlike other government entities, the corporation gets advance appropriations, which gives them funding for 2 years in advance. In 2023, they requested $565 million of your tax dollars. So, given opposition on Capitol Hill, Trump should just threaten to veto any legislation if it contains funding for PBS or NPR. Oh, but they'll go bankrupt. Oh, we're told. Not really. Given all the money they get from leftist donors and those obnoxious pledge drives they run every month, they're not going to go bankrupt, okay? Now, technically, PBS qualifies as a non-commercial education station, but NPR can't make that claim. Even PBS can't make that claim. The on-air programming on PBS of educational material is very small. It's a small minority, and the FCC can step in here. But wait a second. Sesame Street. Okay, if Sesame Street is so popular, and I guess it is, other outlets will fight for it and may actually do better financially on another station. I think Hulu carries it now. And as for being non-commercial, what the hell are those pledge drives? And they do run commercials for their sponsors because even though they don't call them ads, they're still advertisements. Anyway, that's it for today. Anyway, so unless you're a government employee, union worker, a transgender government worker, or big bird, there's not too much controversy here, and that's it. So have a great day and a more pleasant tomorrow.